let's talk about pricing. Just like with everything in SaaS, you want to always iterate, change, and learn. But when you get your pricing right from the get-go, you have a higher chance of having enough revenue to keep you going for the long term. Having an initially good pricing plan can be the make or break of do you have enough runway to keep growing when you hit that spot where you need more resources. So you want to get it right, or as right as possible from the beginning. So this video is part of our pricing series where our goal is to help you answer the question, how should I price my SaaS? And today we are talking about features-based pricing. Should you limit features based on the price, and which features should go in which plan? This video is all about that. Now, I'll admit, initially, sitting down to think about the topic of this video and what to talk about, I wasn't quite sure what I could possibly say about features-based pricing because the name kind of says it all. Features, prices, some features are included in this price, some features are included in this price, end of story. But then I thought about all of the times where I saw a product that I was like, this is an interesting product, I want to use it, but the pricing made no sense. There are so many cases where I get, as a customer, disappointed by a product's prices and just end up not using it because of it. And then there are other cases where I'm like, okay, they got me to upgrade. I didn't want to upgrade, but they convinced me to do it because they priced the product right. It just feels like sometimes when you look at products that are using features-based pricing, the pricing plans are just these randomly assembled little collections of features that don't really make sense, that don't really have any thought behind them. Now, I'm sure they do. I'm not disrespecting the thought process of the founders of these products, but to me as a customer, I didn't agree with whatever estimation they made. So looking at it, there are two main dangers when you are pricing your product features-based. And in this video, I want to go over these two dangers and what you can do to avoid them. But first, let's make sure we're all on the same page with what feature-based pricing actually is and how it works. So yes, the name kind of says it all. Features-based pricing is when you take all of the features in your product and divide it to a few different plans. Usually it's somewhere between 2 to 5 plans, and each plan has a different set of features associated with it. Usually every feature included in the cheapest plan is also included in the more expensive ones with additional features. Again, this is kind of intuitive, but I think it's important that we're all on the same page. Let me give you a few examples if you feel like you need them. Canva, a free app with a premium plan, and they limit some features for the premium plan, like brand colors, resizing, and a lot of the prettier elements. Spotify, who offer a free plan but also offer the premium plan where you can skip songs and not have ads. And I'll be honest with you, I upgraded my Spotify account the same day that I opened it because I obsessively skip songs when I listen to music. So it was meant for people like me. And lastly, Zoom. Zoom has a free option, but they limit call length, participants, and if you want more advanced features like running webinars, then you will have to use their premium features. Now that we got that out of the way, let's talk about the two main pitfalls of features-based pricing. The two things that people really fall down into when they are trying to price their SaaS that really cause a damage to the bottom line of how much revenue you're actually generating. The first one is that your pricing is too strict. It's too expensive, or the features in each one of the plans are a little too closely held together, a little too strict. You're basically losing customers because they cannot afford the price that will give them the features that they need. Some signs of that are that people are leaving directly after the free trial. They are staying with you and then the free trial ends and they just don't provide a credit card, or they cancel their subscription or whatever. Another one is when people reach out to support and ask you to open up features that they need for them in their plan that are not accessible. When you refuse because, you have plans for a reason, they still don't upgrade. Maybe they leave, maybe they stay with you, but they don't upgrade to get the features that they need. That's a red flag that maybe they need the feature, but they cannot afford the plan. And lastly, the gap between your cheapest plans and most expensive plans is not very big. Naturally, the cheaper plans should have more customers inside them because more customers can pay the cheaper plans. It usually has a larger common ground between more people. people that can pay for it and need that. While in the most expensive plans, you are aiming for specific customers who need the more extensive stuff, who maybe are bigger businesses if you're in a B2B, or maybe just people who use very specific features if you are B2C. What it indicates is that the cheapest tier is just not enough for the customers who can afford it. They can afford it, but they don't get the features that they need. So you have an easier time acquiring the biggest customers, the bigger ones. And that might sound like a good thing, but you have the cheaper plans for a reason. You want them to be able to work and for people to be able to use them. We'll talk about the solutions to these things in a second. But first, what is the second pitfall of pricing-based features? The second one is the opposite. Your pricing is too generous. There's nothing in your pricing pushing customers to upgrade. That is the main issue. So let's talk about some of the signs. The first one is that the customers that you thought would upgrade are not upgrading. You have these customer profiles of these are the people who fit in the bigger plans, but they are just not upgrading. They're staying in the lower plans. Why? Because probably there's nothing that they really need in the bigger plans. So there is no real reason for them to upgrade. If you're not sure what I'm talking about with customer profiles, etc., I'll talk about that in the solutions in a second. The second sign is that no one is complaining that the price is too high. And yeah, I know it sounds like a good thing, but it's not. You want some people to say, this is too expensive for me. If no one is saying that, if everyone are in agreement about the price, it means that for some people it's like, oh yeah, that's priced correctly. And some people are like, that's super cheap. I'm never leaving this up. You don't want to be super cheap. You want to be priced fairly. Lastly, some people are complaining that the price is too cheap. I mentioned that in the previous video in this series about flat rate pricing, but some customers, especially the enterprise ones, are going to want to use products that are more expensive. Why? Because they think they get a better product or better support or whatever because it costs more. Now we know that's not necessarily true, but that's just the human psyche, I guess. So if people are complaining that the prices are too low and they're basically saying like, what's wrong with your product? Why isn't it more expensive? It should be more expensive for what you're offering. That is a really strong sign that you should probably raise your prices. It might sound like something that never happens, but it happens. It happens not quite in these words, but people come to you and say, hey, what's the support team behind it? What's the technical stack? Can I count on it doing A, B, C? Basically, they're showing some mistrust signs. Now, I do want to say that all of the signs that I mentioned, they're going to happen no matter what. Even if you are priced in things perfectly, some people are going to leave because it's not going to fit them. Some people are going to complain that it's too expensive or too cheap or whatever. The problem is not that it happens once or twice. The problem is if you see it as a general trend with your customers. Is this the majority of the feedback that you're getting on your pricing? That's a red sign. If this is something that happens now and then, that's fine, it happens. People ask for refunds, people are not happy with the product, that's natural, we're all different, we all have different experiences and different opinions. So don't look at specific isolated cases, look at the trend. So how can we avoid these two problems? Generally speaking, you can't necessarily avoid everything right off the bat. You would need to do some testing, iteration on your pricing, etc. But I do have 4 tactics and things to consider that will help you avoid falling into these traps from the beginning and get your starting point to be a little bit better. Before I talk about these things, I just want to remind you that this channel has a lot of really amazing videos helping you get not only your pricing right, but get started in your SaaS and micro SaaS business. If you are serious about starting your own SaaS, then I really think you should follow us if you are not yet. So if you like this video, give it a thumbs up, like it, and don't forget to subscribe to not miss the rest of our videos. So the first tactic is to build customer profiles and price your features-based pricing according to that. What does that mean? Customer profiles, I remember when I first wanted to know what it is, I used YouTube and Google, and it was so convoluted. It was a little too much for me. You do not need to build a complex customer profile with their name and backstory and image and who is this person? How many kids does he have? What are his values? What does he care about in life? That's a little too much. Maybe for some products you need it. Most cases I don't think you do. What you do need to divide your customers by is their general characteristics that are relevant to your product. meaning their size, maybe their occupation, maybe where they are located at, maybe their gender, maybe their niche. It really depends on the product that you're selling. For example, for us as a Shopify app, it's really about the size of the store, how many orders they get a month, their niche, and their Shopify plan. These are the main things that we care about when we think about pricing. So divide your customers into these groups, and it doesn't need to be super exact groups. You can just do an overall group of a large range of people, this size to this size. That's not people. When I say sizes, I mean businesses. Take a range. You don't have to be super duper specific about it. And then for each of these groups, just create a list of the features that you think this group would need. So businesses of this side would need this. Businesses in this niche would need these features. And then this can be the basis of your features-based pricing. You can kind of see for each of these groups, which features do you think they would need? And you can also see according to the sizes or the other characteristic that they have, how much they'd be willing to pay for it. What are the bigger plans? What are the smaller plans? And see if it makes sense. Do I think this group would be willing to pay more or not? Because if not, then something's not right about the way that I'm dividing my features. The next step is to identify the features that they need versus the features that they want. We all want all the features. That's great. But usually, people are willing to upgrade for the features that they need, not for the features that they want. I'll give you an example. We use ClickUp as a task management system. It's an amazing tool and I love it. And we do pay for it, but we're not on the highest tier. A few months ago, I wanted to create security groups in ClickUp. So I wanted to group my different departments together, different teams together. And instead of giving people permissions one by one over specific lists or specific spaces in ClickUp, I wanted to give the entire group, this team, this development squad, access to this folder, and I couldn't. I had to upgrade to do that. Did I upgrade? No, I didn't, because I don't need that. I want it, but I don't need it. A bigger business than me with more employees, they need that. So they would upgrade for something like that. So that's exactly an example. And by the way, I'm not saying ClickUp is not priced correctly. We did upgrade our plan over a year ago because of features that we needed. We're in the right tier for us. So it's really about finding the features that people need and want. So from the list of features that you have for each one of your customer profiles, try to mark down the ones that they would need, that they can't live without, quote unquote. The things that are make or break for them. And these should be the features that you focus your plans on, not the ones that they want. The next step is to add a bait feature. What does that mean? So we mark down what our different tiers want and what they need. You want to try to take something that this plan needs and put it in the next tier. So for example, in ClickUp, if I am on the smallest tier, the lowest tier, and I really need the option to add some custom statuses, but the smallest tier doesn't allow it. There's a system statuses and that's it. You need to make do with it. I need to add custom statuses. So I will upgrade. Maybe a smaller, more simpler business, maybe solopreneur who's working alone doesn't really need these custom statuses. They can make do without them. So they're going to stay with the smallest tier. I'm going to upgrade. Think about all of the cases in your life that you have upgraded for a specific feature that you needed. You got some extra stuff along the way because, cool, I want this feature too. I got it with the new plan that I'm on. That's awesome, but I wouldn't upgrade for it. So you want to identify for each one of your profiles the one feature that they need that you can take away and only put it in the next plan, the plan that you want them to be on. And this is your bait feature. And lastly, the fourth thing that you have to do is market research. Naturally. Now, I would encourage you to do the market research after you do these 3 steps because sometimes that can kind of limit your thought to only focus on what your competitors are doing, and you don't want to do that. You want to actually expand and think out of the box. But after you do that, go ahead and do some market research. Look at what your competitors are doing. How are they pricing their features? What kind of tiers do you see that they have? Maybe you missed something. Maybe something that you thought this tier would need is actually something they want, or the other way around. Maybe something that you thought only the highest tiers would need turns out to be something that everyone needs and you need to put it in the lowest tier. So you really want to see what people are doing, what kind of feedback they're getting from their customers, if they have any kind of feedback that is reliable and not just testimonials on their website, but actual marketplace reviews and things like that. You can go ahead and check it out and learn from that. Try to improve on that, but don't try to reinvent the wheel because usually there's a reason people do it in a specific way, and you can just take that and improve that instead of inventing something completely new. My last tip for you is that it's usually better to not just do features-based pricing. It's usually better to combine it with usage-based pricing, which is my personal favorite way to price any kind of SaaS product. I think it is superior to all. But I will be talking about usage-based pricing in the next video in this series, so make sure to follow if you haven't yet so that you don't miss it. If it's already out, then it's going to be linked in the description, and either way, this is what YouTube thinks you should watch, and this is what I think you should watch next.